And now, a Buddy Check 13 reminder with News 13's Amy Hoyt.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to 13 Now. I'm News 13's Amy Hoyt. We're coming to you live today on this Buddy Check Day. We are in our studios on Harrison Avenue in downtown Panama City. It's so good to have you with us. As you know, Buddy Check is about breast cancer awareness and reminding women everywhere to check for lumps in their breast and when the time is right to check with their doctor and get that mammogram. Every month we have a special guest, someone who has survived breast cancer and has come to share their journey with us so that we can learn from it. And today is someone you will most likely recognize. She's a longtime Bay County resident. Please give a warm welcome to Rae Cotton. Hi, Rae.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's good to have you here today.
Thank you.
Let's start at the very beginning. This was 11 years ago for you.
It was 11 years ago.
All right, and you did not find the lump on your own.
I did not. I actually just had a regular mammogram, even though it was about 3 months late, which I think might have been my saving grace. Mm-hmm. But I just had a regular mammogram, unfortunately, right before Christmas. And they called me back and said, I think we need to do some more testing. Hairs in the back of your neck go up a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm like, okay, So right after Christmas, I had the ultrasound. Which, of course, then they call you back and say, we got to do some more testing.
Okay, well, let's talk about that before we move any further.
Okay.
Do you have a family history?
I was going to say no, but then I realized my mom at the age of 70 actually had a lumpectomy. No radiation or anything like that. But, I got to thinking about it. And I was like, she's at 70. She actually had... I guess it was in situ as well.
Now, were you shocked by the diagnosis?
Very shocked by the diagnosis. Like I said, at that point, no real family history. I mean, at 70 and in situ, I wasn't really thinking. But I was 47, not expecting that at all. My kids were 9 years old. So with it being the holidays and everything else, I just went into kind of a little bit of denial. And then as I had mentioned, we had a hard time finding a surgeon.
Wow.
Had great insurance, but for whatever reason, could not find a surgeon locally that was in our network. So that kind of pushed me down the road as far as trying to get things done.
Because that's eating time.
That was eating time. Yeah, that was definitely eating time. And, you had to do a biopsy and that type of thing. So I called my general practitioner, Terry Ullman, and said, Terry, I need help. And he said, get in here. You don't need anybody. You're going to be fine. And we'll figure this out together. And he found me a surgeon, Dr. Haisong, who I absolutely adored. And she did a fantastic job. So we went in and we had to do a biopsy first. Honestly, I think that was the worst part of the whole process.
How is that done? Are you awake? You're not awake for
You're
that.
awake.
You are.
Yeah, you are awake. You do have not anesthesia, but local, yeah, okay. Whatever. Mine apparently turned out to be very challenging to get to, very far back on the chest wall. Mm-hmm. And so trying to get there was very, very challenging. They didn't know to go from the top, the side, or the bottom. Mm. I honestly feel that maybe the anesthesia wore off because I felt everything.
And a biopsy is they're removing just like a little part of it?
Yeah, so it's like almost like a punch from what I understand. Mm. It's a long needle going to wherever it needs to go, and they're just grabbing a portion of what they believe to be the problem. And so, unfortunately, I think I definitely felt that.
I didn't know you were awake for that.
Yeah, you're definitely awake for that.
That doesn't sound like any fun at all.
No, like I said, out of all of it, that was the worst part.
And because it was so far back, you probably never would have felt that anyway.
No, I have to admit I'm not very good at doing my own self-breast exams, but that one I would never have felt. Even though I originally thought, 7 millimeters is what it wound up being, which sounds extremely small. But I realized that was a little over 1/4 of an inch.
Right. And if any more time had gone by, those things grow, correct?
Right. And mine, I was very, very blessed that it was in situ, so it had not broken any of the cell walls. So I think that, again, bought me a little bit of time. So I did push the envelope as far as getting the surgery done. But, yeah.
Did they ever suggest, or did you ever talk about removing the whole breast? You just did the lumpectomy, correct?
I just did the lumpectomy. Being that I was 47, I did consider the whole mastectomy. Wow.
That's a big decision.
That's a huge decision. And I talked to a couple of physicians, listened to the process, weighed my pros and cons. And my husband and I said, I think we'll be good just with doing the lumpectomy and then also radiation. Because had I done a total mastectomy, I would not have had to do radiation.
Now, if you were diagnosed in December right before Christmas, how long is it before you actually have the surgery?
So I didn't have the biopsy until early March. And then I had the surgery on the 21st of March.
Okay, so it was quick once you started the process.
Yeah, once I got that process going, it was quick.
Now, what was the recovery like?
The recovery for me was not bad. The day of the surgery was the toughest. One, I kept this a secret. My kids were 9, and the word cancer for a 9-year-old is just mind-boggling.
Right.
You know, they can't comprehend that there's something after that word. So we kept it a secret. So that whole thing of, we dropped the kids off, and I went and had the surgery done. And because of the complication of hitting the artery, my recovery in the hospital was a lot more challenging than they expected, and more than I expected, because I've had several surgeries and I do usually pretty good. This one got my attention.
Right. They were able to get the whole lump.
They got the whole lump. Dr. Heislong did an amazing job, made sure she got extra clean margins, and et cetera. But the artery thing caused a problem. And so, like I said, my recovery at the hospital was a little more challenging. But I got out of there just in time to basically race home, get in bed before my children would return from school.
Well, they must know some things. Kids are astute, so they must have thought something's going on here. But what did they think?
Yeah, so my children knew that I was having, a little something done, that I had a boo-boo basically, and that they had to be gentle with me. So they were good. Bouncing on the bed was a little challenging that day too, but we did good. And they knew just to be gentle and not to be, roughhousing.
Right.
So basically the next day I felt fine. I mean,
wow.
The recovery was not bad at all as far as all that was concerned. The challenge came later with the radiation.
And how long after the surgery do you get radiation?
So my surgery was in March, and I started basically about a month later. Oh. So in April, and then for 7 weeks.
Wow. How many times during the week?
Every day.
Every day for 7 weeks?
Every day. Well, you get the weekends off.
Oh, you get the
I get the weekends off.
Yeah. That's something, I guess, right?
Yes.
At that level.
Yes.
And you're in Bay County doing this as well.
Yep. I did it at the Florida Cancer Center on State.
Right.
So they took very good care of me there. But it is every day. And it's a mental thing, I think, more than anything else.
Right.
Mary Frances Hutt, I don't know if you remember Mrs. Hutt. She took me under her wing and she said, this will be a mental game because it's 7 weeks every day. And she said, this is your treatment. This is your venture, your path. And she said, do it your way. And so I found a way to kind of make it as easy as possible, because more prep work is done to get ready to have radiation than it was to actually have the radiation. So I'm like, okay, what can I do to feel better? So I brought in fancy robes. I brought in scarves. I brought in whatever I could to make me feel better, and to make me feel just more comfortable.
And they're targeting the area where you had the surgery,
Yes,
correct?
it is a very targeted approach.
And does that make you tired or feel sick?
I didn't have any tiredness or sick. It is a very, very bad sunburn. So, depending on how sensitive that area of the skin is or whatever for everybody, it is different. I did very well until the end. And then it was more just a very, very, very bad sunburn. So, keeping it moist and covered with special ointments and that type of thing. So what I wasn't prepared for, as I said, keeping this a secret from my children, was that they mark you with a lovely blue marker, like a couple of days before your first treatment. That was kind of hard to keep covered and wear clothing that my children couldn't figure it out. I later found out my daughter had noticed it, and just kind of was like, what's mom up to? What's this about, So we've talked about it since then, and she totally understands and realizes what I was going through and, the secrets we were keeping at the time.
How long did you wait before you finally told them?
Oh, my daughter I told probably when she was about 15.
Oh, so you waited.
I waited.
You waited a number of years.
Yeah, I waited. Just because at that point, we had gotten past it and it was like, okay, how do you do this? And we talked about other things throughout the years, but this one we kind of finally had a real discussion when she was about 15.
Because now there is a family history.
And now there's,
as a girl, she's going to have to be checked probably at a younger age than others who don't have that family history. Is that correct?
More likely than not. So, I think I didn't have my first mammogram until I was like 40.
Right.
So I keep hearing the reports are different. I've heard 35 now that you have a history. So I'm going to kind of have to wait. She's only 21, so we'll keep an eye on her.
And they're twins, by the way, which I didn't know until today. So they were 9 at the same time. Now they're 21 at the same time.
Yes, they are. Yes, polar opposites, but definitely twins.
How did the son take it? That's always different.
He was kind of okay with it. He didn't quite understand it. We didn't have as depth of conversations about it. His reaction was, "You're okay?" I'm like, "Yep." He's like, "Cool." So, yeah.
Where is your husband through all this? It's important when the spouse is supportive. Obviously, your husband was, but how is he through it?
He was an absolute rock. He doesn't get flustered with a lot of these things. Growing up, a physician's son, he takes things pretty matter of fact and kind of kept me level-headed because, of course, I was the emotional one going, what the heck, and what am I doing here, and how is this going to happen, and how are we going to be down the road? Right. So, yeah, he was a rock star through all of that.
And he took care of you.
He did. And like I said, even though I kept it a secret, I had a very small group of people that I told who were amazing and made me feel safe and loved. And I knew that I could at least make a phone call and say, hey, guys, I need to talk today. And so they were awesome for that.
Did you ever know anybody who had breast cancer before you got your diagnosis?
Other than Mary Frances Hutt, who I loved and adored, she was my own really experience with that.
Right.
So.
But, and you had told me earlier that you worked for the American Cancer Society. You were raising money for research to help other people prior to this happening.
Yep. I left here after I graduated from Florida State, had gotten a job in media and decided I was going to try something new. I actually got a job with the American Cancer Society in Jacksonville and thoroughly loved it. It was near and dear to my heart and actually was a fundraiser for Relay for Life.
Wow.
I want to say it was around 2000. So, yeah, I mean, the American Cancer Society was important to me. just had not been completely touched by it at that point.
Right.
So, and now this month we're raising money for Movember.
Oh, right.
So,
Men's health.
Yep. Men's health.
There's
right.
a lot going on. Yeah.
Yes,
That's a whole
exactly.
other thing.
Yes, another thing completely.
And so now it's been 11 years. They say you're good after 5, correct?
Yes. So after 5, I think I started to really breathe. The tamoxifen really, I think, was another side effect that people have to take.
Oh, so you did take more medicine then?
I took it immediately after they
Oh, wow.
threw me into menopause. That was not fun at all. The hot flashes and I call them power surges. My husband would laugh because my foot would be outside of our bed and he'd come home late and cover up my foot. I'm like, that's my thermometer. Leave it alone.
Right.
So, but the tamoxifen for 5 years was a challenge because, I mean, those hot flashes and power surges, I feel like I'm still going through them.
And tamoxifen is to keep the cancer from coming back.
It is to keep the cancer from coming back because I don't exactly remember what mine was, but it was estrogen based. So I did have to do that to do blocking and all of those kind of things. Unfortunately, I also got the lovely weight gain that went with that.
Yeah.
So I finally have lost 25 pounds. I got
good
more
for
to
you.
go.
You look
so
good.
thank you. But yeah, that was a terrible side effect.
Wow. When
Yeah.
you look back, most people go ahead and that I've interviewed, I'll say most people, the ones that I've met, they did tell their kids. So when you look back, and everybody makes their own decisions,
Right.
obviously, because you got to go with, your own children.
Right.
But do you ever wish you had told them sooner?
With the age that they were and knowing my kids, I think it was the right decision.
Right.
I could have talked to them earlier than 15.
But you were good at that point.
I was good at that point.
So you don't wanna worry them.
Absolutely. I was good at that point. I will tell you a small secret. I did find out later that a family member's child had told my daughter, I think she was 12, that, your mom has cancer. And she's like, no, she doesn't. And they had a little, whatever. I didn't find that out until later. So I did feel bad about it, but she was dead convinced that I did not. And so, yeah.
So it worked out. Yeah,
It worked
you
out.
definitely have to know, obviously, we all know
Right.
our own children.
Yeah.
And you kind of got to go with how things are going. And
Yeah.
9 is young.
9 is young.
You're right. The C
and
word is never
It's
something
never
they want to
good.
hear.
And, being a mom of twins and a boy and a girl, I've listened to so many advices, but honestly, I found out that I had to do me.
Right.
And what worked for us.
Do you have any sisters?
I do have a sister.
And does she check now?
She's checking and has been checking and is perfectly great.
Okay. Now,
So-
and now I assume you go back once a year?
Yes, I went actually every 6 months for
still?
a while,
Oh, no,
and
no.
then I went to once a year, and now it's just a standard
Mammogram?
Yeah, in fact, I just got cleared. I think every 2 years now.
Oh, good for you.
Yep.
Well, that's great news for sure.
Yes.
What advice do you have for women who are listening? Now, you were young, still in your 40s. I mean, that's young.
Yes.
To get breast cancer. What's the
Yes.
advice you give now?
I would say, definitely do your self-breast exams. If you're not doing those, 100% get your mammograms. I'm a reminder to my friends. I call them a lot of times on the 13th and go, you need to get it done because it is our health and we have to be our own advocates.
Right.
We do know, our own body's best. I know that some people say like itching is a symptom, which I did not realize for a long time. And so for people to just be aware and your body the best. If there's something that's not right or you're not quite sure, get checked.
Take care of it.
Yep.
Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you'd want to say about breast cancer or your journey or to other women?
Like I said, again, I would just say,
Just check.
honestly, get checked, and remind your husbands to do the same thing. I mean, because they're susceptible as well.
Right.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, we sure appreciate you sharing your story today. It's good to know you. I have not ever met you in person, and for those who don't know, and I'm sure a lot of people do know, you and your husband run the Beef O'Brady's on the Beach. So you've been around for a long time. And
been around a long time.
Working.
Yep.
And so one thing I didn't ask you, did you work through the radiation?
I did.
You did?
I did. I think it kept me sane.
Yeah.
But yes, because like I said, it was a mental game to do that every single day. And I would find a friend to go have a cup of coffee with because, like I said, to do it mentally on your own was a little challenging.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Well, Rae Cotton, it was so nice to meet you, and we appreciate you sharing your story about breast cancer.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
She said it best. Ladies, check for lumps in your breast. You can remind your husbands too. And get that mammogram once you hit 40, or if you think there's something going on in your body. We appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.